Okay. Well, welcome everyone to this introduction to a series of masterclasses that we're planning, which are aimed at identifying some of the trickier groups of European butterflies. My name's Martin Warren. I'm an advisor with Butterfly Conservation Europe, which is an umbrella body aimed at conserving butterflies and moths across Europe. Now, these masterclasses are being run as part of an EU-funded project known as EPIC, which is an acronym for European Pollinator Identification Courses. And EPIC Butterfly is one of three projects being funded by the EU, the others being on EPIC Bee and EPIC Hoverfly, obviously aimed at identifying bees and hoverflies. And the aim of the project is to train a cohort of parataxonomists who can help the EU implement the new EU pollinator monitoring scheme. And you can find a lot more information about that on our website, Butterfly Conservation Europe's website, and also on the EPIC website. So in this short introduction, I'm going to give you just a little bit of background to the EPIC project and outline some of the sources of information that you might find useful in identifying butterflies where you live. So, just to begin with a bit of background, so the EU passed a nature restoration regulation in 2024, and part of that is to do with the restoration of pollinator populations. Now, most of you will know that pollinators across Europe and in fact across the world are in decline, and the EU are very keen to reverse that decline. So they, in this regulation, they've got a couple of requirements of member states to improve pollinator diversity and reverse the decline by 2030, and thereafter achieve an increasing trend in pollinator populations. And in order to monitor that, they're to implement a science-based method for monitoring pollinators called the EU POMS, that's the EU Pollinator Monitoring Scheme. And that's got to start in 2027. So part of these EPIC projects is to prepare member states and people in the different countries of the European Union so that they're capable of running this pollinator monitoring program. So just a little bit of background about the butterfly monitoring. Well, we've been doing butterfly monitoring across Europe for many years now, over 50 years. And we have a standard system called butterfly transects, and those go to the European Butterfly Monitoring Scheme. So many of you are already involved in that, and you can get involved as well if you want to help contribute data to this important scheme. Now, that scheme's got a good coverage now and presence in every European Union country and many others beyond the EU. So it's a growing scheme and providing valuable data on the health of European butterfly and of course by other pollinators. So one of the things that we do in the European Butterfly Monitoring Scheme is produce a grassland butterfly indicator, which shows this big decline of 50% since 1990. And this is one of the many pieces of evidence showing that pollinators are in decline across Europe. But this happens to be a butterfly example. Now, in the EPIC projects, we're trying to, in the butterfly side of things, we've come up with a scheme of learning, which basically is this inverted pyramid. So you start off with your level 0, which is just basically a preliminary introduction to butterflies and what they are and what they look like. And then it goes up through levels, the basic level, which we've got online workshops and online training courses. And we've got field excursions going in some of the target countries. Level 2 is sort of intermediate standard. Again, there's a lot of online resources being developed and will appear soon. Again, field excursions in some of the target countries, mainly in Eastern Europe. And the aim is to identify at that level about 70% of the national fauna of the EU countries. But level 3 is the advanced level, and we've decided that we would run a series of masterclasses with experts from different countries who would teach us about how to identify some of the difficult groups, because undoubtedly, if you start doing any monitoring, you will come across some species that are a bit tricky to identify, and this will help you get started on how you identify those species. And then level 4, which will also be some online courses looking at how you identify butterflies through genitalia, because some species you can't identify just by looking at them. Right, so there's a lot of information already available under the EPIC projects, available through the Pollinator Academy website. So make a note of that web address, Pollinator Academy. And within that, there's a whole series of courses you can see here on the right, which are the butterfly courses. So already there's quite a lot available on this website, and there'll be more added in due course. But why do we need masterclasses? Well, as I said, some groups really are quite hard to identify. They're quite possible if you have a good look at the butterfly itself, but you need to know what features to look for. And that's important because in order to monitor butterflies accurately, recorders need to be able to identify all the species that they come across. So in the EU POMs, every species has to be identified down to species level. So if you catch a butterfly, you need to be able to work out what it is. And indeed, if it's a species that can only be identified by genitalia, you need to know which species those are. And the aim of the masterclasses is to give you tips on how to identify these similar looking species in your region. So we're breaking it down into different groups of butterflies, but also regional breakdown as well, so that you can work out which are relevant to you. So that's it. When all the masterclasses are available, you can watch the ones that are applicable to your situation or your region. So at the moment, these are the sorts of ones that we're planning. So we've got ones coming up, for example, on the Atlantic region, looking at the Melatea, Beloria, Argynnis and Purgus species that you find in the Atlantic region. Obviously, the Alps is a very rich area for butterflies, and there's lots of groups like the Erebias, which are difficult to identify. Then we've got some courses planned on the continental butterflies, the East continental and the Balkans. And we're planning them on the Mediterranean and also the Boreal region and the islands, which obviously sometimes have their own species on them. So just a quick overview of butterflies in Europe. This is a map showing where the richest areas for butterflies are. So we've got about 501 species of resident and regular migrants in Europe. And a lot of them, or the richest areas, are found in the mountain regions of the Alps, the Pyrenees and the Balkans. But butterflies can be found right the way from the top of Scandinavia, which even has its own specialized butterflies, right down to the Mediterranean and the islands off over the Macaronesian Islands. And again, if you look at the endemic butterflies, these ones where obviously they're not found anywhere outside Europe, so Europe has a particular responsibility for conserving them. These are also concentrated in the Alps and the Pyrenees, but there are endemic butterflies dotted all around the country, high north of Scandinavia, but also in the Macaronesian Islands, off in the Atlantic, have their own, often their own species on them. So the first clue to identifying species in Europe is obviously knowing where you are and what the distribution of the species are in Europe. So here's just two examples of a butterfly that's found only in Scandinavia, Beloria freya. And obviously, if you live in most of Europe, you're not going to see that butterfly, so you really don't need to know how to identify it. But if you live in the south, you will see species like Argynnis pandora, so you need to know how to identify that, separate it from other Argynnis species. But again, if you live in Scandinavia, you're not going to see that species, so you don't need to learn about it. So the first sort of clue is just working out what species are in the country or the region that you live in. And so what we'll be doing in these masterclasses is looking at some of these similar looking species. So here's an example of the Xerinthia species with their distributions. So again, knowing where you are in Europe will help you identify. So if you're in Spain, you will not see Rumina and Cassandra because it doesn't occur there. Rumina occurs in Spain, but Polyxena doesn't. So knowing where you are in Europe is an important feature and where butterflies occur. So looking at the distribution maps is important. And you can get some resources on the distribution of butterflies in Europe from the BC Europe website, which has got a helpful butterfly species listing, which is I've got a drop-down menu which is shown with this arrow, and you can select your country and you can download a species list of species that occur in that country. So you can immediately narrow down what species you have to learn about. Then, of course, there's lots of fabulous resources now available on identifying European butterflies. These are just 3 examples of some really good identification guides showing you features to look for, similar species and so on, looking at the uppers and undersides of butterflies and which bits are the bits to look at. So those are some really good resources, but of course they cover the whole of Europe. So they cover a lot of species that probably won't occur in the area where you're counting butterflies. So it's important also to look down to see if there's any local guides. And here's an examples of different local guides from around Europe. Most countries now, or many countries at least, have their own dedicated guides. And obviously that will help you identify species where you live. Then there are a lot of really good resources now online, and here are 2 examples. So on our own website, Butterfly Conservation Europe website, has got some downloadable regional guides, and also this marvelous photographic guide by Peter Gergely, who's kindly allowed us to use that and download. You can download it, which is a guide mainly to butterflies of Central and Northern or Middle Europe. Which shows you how to identify sort of different features of the butterflies in that area. And the European Butterflies Group on the right has another fabulous website, and they're developing some really useful identification guides of different groups. So some of the ones that are available already are the Polymatini, the blues and the argosy of Europe. And they've got commoner species, and they're just working on a rarer species identification key. They've got the Pyrgus groups of skippers and the fritillaries of Europe. So there's lots of resources there, and those are really clear guides. They've got keys and photos of uppers and undersides that you can look at to help with your identification. And there's an increasing number of really good online resources by country. And again, many of these are on our website or on the European Butterflies Group website. So here's 2 examples. There's one for France, which is really nice pictorial guide, but has keys and identification features. And also there's one from Lazarus Pamperis in Greece, which again has lots of photos, distribution maps and so on, and also has a sort of little photo ID guide, which is very useful. So these are the masterclasses, again, just a reminder of some of the ones that are being planned. And I suggest you watch out for the announcements on your emails or your social media. We're active on Facebook and Blue Sky, so we'll announce the forthcoming masterclasses on those. And we'd really appreciate your interest in monitoring butterflies, and we'd like to thank you for your interest, and hopefully your journey of identifying butterflies and getting involved in monitoring butterflies across Europe, which is an increasingly important task because butterflies and these other pollinators are declining so rapidly, and we all want to know whether their decline is being stopped by the measures being taken by different countries around Europe. So it's a really important project, and it's great that you're interested and want to get involved. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Martin. It was really nice presentation, short, but really good with the information we wanted to share. We don't have the chat available, but I don't know if people will have questions. They can raise their hands and then I can allow to talk if they want it. I was including some links on the chat. And I think the information was pretty well. We will include this video on our YouTube channel because at the moment we are not able to do the live stream. But yeah, it was pretty good. Nobody is raising their hands. Martin, I think
Okay,
you can
well,
stop.
yeah, well, it's just this is just basic information. So obviously the
Yeah,
masterclasses are when the real information starts. So well, we look forward to meeting you there and listening as well
yeah.
to some of the experts telling us how to identify butterflies.
They are asking. I know where they are. Are these any set dates already for the first courses? So we are still preparing the master classes, but I can let you know that in the middle of February we will start with the first master class, maybe on the Atlantic or on the Baltic. But we will announce them in advance and also to send the link and everything to everyone.
Yes, it's probably worth mentioning that they're going to happen. There will be a burst this spring, and then they'll happen again in the autumn.
Yeah, exactly. So we will try to complete. If you can put the table, Martin, the previous slides.
Ah, okay.
Uh, we will try to complete some of the classes, master classes this winter, starting of the spring, and then we continue later in autumn. So yeah, we will see because we need to arrange all the species and it's quite complex. There is a person who wants to talk. Stephen, I'm going to allow the micro to talk. If you can unmute yourself, Stephen.
Hello?
Hello?
Well, I'm just going back to the guides. I live in Bulgaria, and all the books that I've got are 20 years plus out of date. Does Martin know if there's anything planned for publishing in Bulgaria?
We can. Your audio is really poor, so I can't really hear you, I'm afraid.
He was saying something about the Bulgarian guides.
Yeah, I've got some Bulgarian guides, but they're 20 plus years old. And I wondered if Martin knew if there was a Bulgarian butterfly book due for publishing.
It's a good question. I don't know offhand, but I think we can get back to you. Well, as I say, if you have a look at um, the two websites that I mentioned, the European Butterfly Group, that they may well cover them. European Butterfly Group are very good. They usually do reviews of any book that's published in Europe, so that's a good place to start.
Great, thank you so much. I think that was all. There are no more questions. And so thank you so much again, Martin. It was really
Okay, well,
great.
my pleasure.
And we will keep you informed in our social media. We will put it on in advance, the date when we confirm them with the butterfly experts. And I hope you enjoyed. And anyway, you could watch the videos in our YouTube channel. So, Sue Collins wants to talk. Do you want to allow her, Martin?
Yes, we better. Let's see.
Hi, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Just want to say if any of you listening are not already in contact with Butterfly Conservation Europe, you're very welcome to send an email to Christina or to the BC
EPIC.
email, EPIC email, and give us your email address and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
I'd like to know specifically something. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Yes, and we can get you in touch with people doing monitoring in your country. So that's
Yeah.
a little service we can offer.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So I think it was pretty good for the first
Okay.
time, first trial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone, and hope to see you on other seminars, other masterclasses.
Bye.